Welcome to National Pension Partners, where retirement planning meets peace of mind. Today, we're diving into the 412(e)(3 plan, also known as a fully insured pension plan. This isn't just any retirement plan. It's the gold standard for stability and guaranteed benefits. How does it work? Simple. It's funded exclusively by life insurance and annuity contracts. This means no market risks, no actuarial assumptions, just ironclad guarantees. Think of it like this. You're a small business owner who hates surprises. The 412(e)(3 plan gives you predictable, stable contributions every year. Your future benefits are backed by insurance contracts, so you know exactly what you're getting. No guesswork, no headaches. But there's more. These plans are designed to maximize your contributions and offer significant tax advantages. And with National Pension Partners, you're not just getting a plan, you're getting a team of experts, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, all dedicated to making your retirement as secure as possible. We provide personalized consulting, ensuring that your plan is tailored to your specific needs. Best part? Initial consultations and proposals are absolutely free. $0, zero commitment. So if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. With the 412(e)(3 plan, your future is in safe hands. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. Perfect for small business owners who like their finances as predictable as Monday mornings. Stable contributions, ironclad guarantees, and serious tax advantages. It's the trifecta of financial security. And with National Pension Partners, you get a team of brainiacs, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, ensuring your retirement is as secure as Fort Knox. Oh, did we mention the free consultations? That's right. You get a personalized expert proposal with $0 down. So, if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. Because when it comes to your future, boring is the new exciting. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. For more details, check out National Pension Partners at nationalpensions.com. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling.
A lot of conflicts going on in the world, and apparently a centurion has an idea of how we can get by and live. And of course, maybe part of it involves falling out of a plane, but he also has some other advice as well. But I'll get to that in a minute, maybe toward the end of this news report and everything. But let's get to the conflicts. Israeli forces have rescued a Bedouin hostage held by Hamas in Gaza. So this is after that particular hostage had been held for 325 days in Hamas captivity. So hostage Kaid Farhan al-Qaeda was rescued by IDF from the tunnel in Gaza. And Russia is raining heavy missiles and drone attacks on Ukraine a day after a strike on a key energy infrastructure. But the F-16 fighter jets helped repel the largest Russian strike on Ukraine. So definitely it looks like Russia's attack on Ukraine kills 5 in a second day of major strikes, according to Kyiv. And I know we have a reporter that comes in from Kyiv, so hopefully they'll be coming in today and giving us an up-to-date report of how things are going in that area and all along those lines. A separatist group claims multiple attacks that killed over 40 people in Pakistan. So a gunman in Pakistan staged a deadly attack on vehicles, and the Pakistan Prime Minister says the militant attacks were aimed at thwarting China cooperation. So definitely that is something else going on as well. And UK Prime Minister Starmer warns of a painful October budget to tackle a shortfall in public finances. So finances isn't just an issue here in the US and everything, but it's also an issue in the UK. As a matter of fact, on his lectern that I'm seeing the picture of, it says fixing the foundation. So definitely we're going to see how they do in terms of fixing the foundations and all along those lines. And they're saying that the person that is being charged over there, that's the Telegram CEO, Pavel Durov, they're calling him a Russian Elon Musk with 100 biological children. So definitely it'll be interesting to see how this plays on and what goes on in that space, because a French judge has extended police custody for Telegram CEO Pavel Durov. And General McMaster's is once again saying there's no way he'd work for a very offensive Trump again. So H.R. McMaster doesn't think Donald Trump is very good at making deals. So definitely, it looks like he was in his book painting a picture of a very chaotic Trump White House in his latest book, and all along those lines. So definitely, that's something else going on as well. And Reuters safety advisor was killed, and two journalists injured in Ukraine's Kramatorsk. So definitely that's something going on as well. And they're saying that Reuters safety advisor was killed and a couple of journalists were injured in the hotel strike in Ukraine. And apparently the ocean is overflowing. The UN chief issues a global SOS as new reports warn of Pacific sea levels. So the UN chief issues a climate SOS and warns of unimaginable catastrophe. So definitely that's something going on. And apparently there's a Pacific Islands Forum, and definitely the summit for the world's tiniest nations has become a global draw. So definitely there are folks that are warning about that area being under fire and all along those lines. And the captain of the sunken yacht is under investigation in the death on that ship. Uh, Definitely, it looks like they're saying that the captain of the Bayesian yacht is to be interrogated again. So it looks like he might even be under investigation for manslaughter. So that's some of the news that we're seeing in the international scene and all along those lines. So U.S. could escort Philippine resupply missions in South China Sea, and U.S. military is open to escorting Philippine seas in South China Sea amid clashes with China. So it does look like the Philippines might be escalating as well. And the UN is saying that the Gaza aid operation has been temporarily halted due to evacuation. So that's something that we're seeing as well, as the UN says evacuation orders in Gaza's Deir al-Balah upended the aid efforts, and that's something that we'll see how that plays out as well. And Chinese military planes are carrying out their first violation of Japanese airspace. So Japan says Chinese military planes violated its airspace for the first time. So there might even be some conflicts in that part of the world as well. And there's anger after Macron rejects France's left-wing government. So political chaos in France after Macron refuses to name a prime minister from the left-wing coalition. So like I said, lots going on in the world and all around the world. I'm going to get to some of the United States stuff, and I'm going to get to that interesting world story. And then I'm going to bring up my panelists who are here with me and all along those lines. The judge has blocked Biden's administration from granting legal status to spouses of U.S. citizens. So definitely the judge has blocked parole in place program for immigrant spouses of U.S. citizens. So we'll see how this plays out as well. And the Rice University, that is, canceled classes again Tuesday after students on campus death in an apparent murder suicide. So that was over there at that small Houston college that was rocked by an apparent murder suicide on the first day of fall semester. And a U.S. soldier who fled to North Korea to admit desertion is part of their plea deal. So Travis King, the U.S. Army private who ran into North Korea to plead guilty to desertion. So definitely we're going to see what happens internationally with that as well. And apparently, President Trump was downplaying the fact that some of the aides of some of the past presidents, like Bush and others, were showing their support behind Kamala Harris. So apparently he was not letting that discourage him in any way and all along those lines. And at Michigan, activists are taking over and shutting down student government. The University of Michigan Board of Regents declines requests to divest from Israeli companies, and protests are planned over there. So pro-Palestinian student government makes good on its promises. So we're seeing that as well. And Democrats sue to block a new GOP-backed Georgia election certification rule. So that's something going on with the elections as well. And a Latino voting rights group calls for investigations after Texas authorities search homes. So Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton raided Latino Democrats' homes, including those of LULAC members. So definitely there's actually folks that are asking for a probe as well. And apparently RFK may be unable to withdraw his name from ballots in some swing states. So definitely we'll be seeing how this all plays out. RFK Jr. says Trump asked him to help pick people who will be running the government. So apparently that means that he might have some say there should there be a Trump government and all along those lines. And like I said earlier, hundreds of former Bush, McCain, and Romney staffers are endorsing Harris, and apparently the Trump campaign is downplaying that as well. And a top level meeting shows China and Xi still a priority for Biden. So Biden's top security advisor lands in China for official talks. The National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan arrived in China for talks on fentanyl, Taiwan, and other subjects as well. And severe storms are causing damage across southern Minnesota, and the state fair there has delayed opening. So definitely that's something going on. And of course, there's still things around the Trump assassination attempt. So the Trump assassination attempt task force chair questions frozen response to shooter after touring site. So definitely people are still investigating that. And the Trump assassination task force visited Butler as a right wing promises a parallel inquiry. So I guess they're going to be inquiring as well, and all along those lines. So I did say I was going to give you one of those lighthearted stories as well, and then I'll bring in the panel, and maybe they've got some ideas around what this particular person said, and all along those lines. But a record-breaking 102-year-old skydiver took place. So the 102-year-old woman becomes the United Kingdom's oldest skydiver. And one of the things she says is, "I don't do fear." So she apparently is one of those folks that is trying to be as fearful as possible. And when it comes to the secret to longevity, she said something that I'm sure many of us can agree with. And I definitely got to hear what my folks got to say about that, including Rick Rosner, because he would probably agree with it as well. But one of the things she said was, don't forget to party. So that's one of her advices if you want to live to be 102, and all along those lines. And she said, don't forget to party. So what is your thoughts around this? Because apparently a couple of days ago, she is now out there as one of the oldest skydivers at 102. And she said it was mission accomplished after her birthday jump a couple of days ago. And like I said, she's, I guess, encouraging other people to have that joy of life and everything. So what is your take on that?
I mean, if things screw up for her, at least it's over really fast.
That is very true. I'll bring in Nick. Maybe Nick's got some thoughts about that too. Nick,
yeah, I think the Democratic Party has done a good job following that mantra. Don't forget to party, because they had a party all week. No substance really to speak of whatsoever, but it was kind of like a feel-good thing. As a matter of fact, the entire election is all about, hey, how good do I feel about myself? But no one wants to talk about the substantive issues, because, boy, that would require politicians and government officials actually have to do some work and express some humility about the horrible jobs that they've been doing. I do believe that Project 2025 is on the right track. You just need to eliminate all these bureaucrats. I mean,
yeah, but that's I hate Project 2025 is 940 pages.
I know that. I've been combing my way through it, and part of it's good, part of it's lunatic, just like everything else. The Democrats just say it's all bad, but that's not true. A lot of this stuff is good, especially when it comes to the bureaucratic state that we have, that unfortunately, in my position, I have to fight them all the time, and they're horrible.
Yeah, but you have a personal beef because your industry is
yeah, because I see the damage they do every day, Rick. That's the problem.
But Nick, along the same lines, even when it comes to
why would
hold on a second. Hold on a second. When it comes to
really makes America.
What about the judges? Nick, what about the judges? Because apparently, and this comes down to what even Kamala Harris has said, because apparently there was an immigration bill that got voted down, and now the judges are blocking Biden's administration from granting legal status to immigrants of spouses of folks that are already U.S. citizens. So that seems like to me like that could be a case of bureaucracy on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, we do have a over bloated legal system Mark, there's absolutely no question about it. We have like 1.6 million attorneys out there. And part of it is because we've turned into this huge bureaucratic state. And the only way to solve it is to start firing people. And Trump didn't do a good job last time. Project 2025 is trying to lean him toward, hey, look, guy, you really need to start getting rid of these bureaucrats who think and I used to be one. I worked for the city attorney's office in Miami Beach. It is a big power trip what you can do to people. You can basically go around.
Trump's not the guy to do it. Trump, there's been 5 surveys of presidential historians since Trump was elected. These are guys who study the presidency, and they ranked him, hundreds of experts in presidential history ranked him worst president in history, second worst, third worst, fourth worst, and then worst again. He's not a guy, he shouldn't be running the country. He did a bad job in the first place. 2020 was a disaster. And yeah, you can say, well, that was because of COVID, but he made COVID worse through incompetence and laziness. And a second term for Trump would be even more chaotic. Decent people don't want to work for him. His cabinet's going to be full of lunatics and idiots.
But along those same lines, one of his allies is begging him, and I think a couple of other people have begged him as well to quote unquote shut the F up and everything. But Ann Coulter is not a raging liberal, and even she is begging Donald Trump to shut up and everything. And so he may have a new foe in somebody that has definitely been known as a conservative and all along those lines.
So, I'd like to just come back to Rick on a couple of things here. So, first of all, you say to Nick, "Oh, Nick, you've got a personal beef because what he talks about the pension guarantee fund,
pension
after
small
groups.
It's just a microcosm of a huge problem in the United States.
Right. Don't you think, Rick, that there are millions or tens of millions of people around America that, like Nick, have had some sort of interaction with government, don't like what they've been through?
Correct.
The second thing I just want to say,
that is correct.
When you talked about, Project 2025 is 940 pages. The way you said it, it sounded like you thought that was a negative. I think people prefer 940 pages to the 0 pages that Harris and Waltz have actually released on what their policies are going to be. You're talking about having early mail-out ballots coming out in 3 weeks from now. Okay, early voting starting around 70 days. They're yet to do an interview. There's contention about whether they're going to do a debate. So when you come back and you say that Donald Trump did a terrible job, well, I'll say a couple of things to that. Firstly, if we're talking about COVID, he did a terrible job compared to whom? Let's compare him to other countries and what they went through. Let's also look at what powers he actually has. Let's also have a look at what state governors did. To attribute all the blame to Trump, I think, is very disingenuous. And when you say that Donald Trump is not the right person, okay, but compared to Harris, if you're looking at it from a completely unbiased perspective, can you understand why there's going to be tens of millions of people in America that say, you know what, I don't think Harris is the right person for the job?
That's right.
Well, sure. The last election, we were fairly evenly divided. The last election, where one candidate got more than 53% of the popular vote, was in 1988. The elections are incredibly close in America, which annoys me because I think when you look at the chaos that is the GOP, they don't deserve all the votes they get. But
to the Democrats, according to half the country. I'm going to be right back. I'm just having a slight technical issue.
Yeah. Go trade some stock. But see, this is what Shaquille is saying. Trump may not be the answer, but Harris definitely is not the answer. Okay, because she has absolutely no history of balancing a checkbook, and her relationship with who's that other guy, Biden.
But Trump's history with checkbooks is he's America's worst businessman. More money.
I agree. Do you see it underneath there, Pod TV Europe? Okay, when I have no way of winning, I leave. Okay?
No,
There's
I mean,
no way
no,
there's
we
no
would
way I
do
can
the
win.
same thing. We're looking at doing the same thing.
You
But
know, I mean, it's
Trump
just,
is not good at business, at economics.
yeah, you're not, you don't want to talk about all his
Well, and
gadgets
Harris
and
is. Trump
and
isn't good at
Harris
business
is.
and economics, but Harris is. The
All right, so
GOP, the
here's
GOP is in disarray, but the
here's
Democrats are. The Democrats that just cooed
No, the
and just
Democrats
ousted
definitely.
President
all right,
Biden, stole the nomination from him, anointed Kamala Harris. Oh, there's no dysfunction there. It's all
let me
just dysfunction in
True,
the
they
GOP.
anointed Harris.
totally can go.
She
Hold on,
didn't,
let
she
me
didn't get
respond
one
quickly.
popular
Let me
vote,
respond
yet she's the nominee. Isn't that great? Come on, Jacoby.
No,
Let's hear from the Mr.
let me
Progressive.
respond and
Let
then
him defend.
hold
Let him
on.
defend.
So Harris at least represents, Biden Harris represent, yeah, you don't like Democrats spending a bunch of money, but they represent sane, competent government. Now you can do, and Trump, so competent people don't work for Trump. Competent people, 40 out of 44 cabinet members who used to work for Trump refused to endorse him. His second term will be filled with criminals and idiots.
That's because he doesn't put up with trash, and most people are trash.
When you say that the Harris Waltz are competent and Trump isn't, okay, we've got proof. We can have a look at the presidency from 2016 to 2020. Prior to COVID, the economy was doing well. You had record high stock markets, interest rates had remained relatively low, inflation was low, petrol prices were low, immigration was under control. I mean, like, on what metric are you saying he didn't do well?
There is no metric. He was doing good all the way to
is
COVID.
2020.
But everything
went to hell. And one measure of a president is how well they do when crises happen. And
but if you can't judge everything just on you can, but there is more to his presidency than 2020. And I actually think that there is a massive legal question that still hasn't been answered because of the way that January 6th was politicized, if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, but that's another story. Let's listen to Jacoby.
January 6th. I was just
you talked about 2020. I'm assuming that's what you're referring to.
No, January 6th was in
2021.
So no, I'm just talking about 2020. But
as in COVID, is that what you're referring? When you say 2020, are you referring to COVID?
I'm referring to COVID and the country being so. Now I'm not saying Trump's entirely responsible. Yeah, there were mostly Democratic, but some Republican governors who right at the beginning made decisions that led to a ton of people dying in senior living and nursing homes. And different states had different luck and different decisions. Same for you guys with Australia. You guys got hit fairly late because you guys are way down around this, at the bottom of the southern hemisphere. A ditto for New Zealand gave you time to make smarter decisions because.
Well, that's okay. No, okay. So hang on a second. So first of all, that's before you guys did, and I know because I was in America at the time. One of the reasons I didn't want to come back to Australia was because we'd run out of toilet paper and water and all this sort of stuff. So I was like, well, the hell with this. I'm going to stay in LA, right? And then, over sort of a week or two, it hit the US really hard. So, but again, look, I have some pretty strong feelings about what the Prime Minister of New Zealand did and what some of the state premiers here in Australia did, because it was disruptive. However, I pull back on criticising too harshly, because at the end of the day, these politicians have to rely on the evidence and the information that they're being given by health authorities and by doctors. What are they supposed to do? So to go back and then judge somebody and say, well, this other guy actually made a better decision than you did. Well, that other guy might have been getting different information, okay? And there was different information being given to the Canadians than what there is to you guys in America. So to come back against Donald Trump on that's why I've never really criticised Joe Biden. When people say, and the Republicans try to say, oh, there's more deaths under Joe Biden, blah, blah. I'm not even going to play that game because I think that's ridiculous. But if we're going to focus on the economy, at some point, it has to, you can sit there and go, okay, he's a Hitler, he's chauvinistic, he's sexist, he's going to grab it by the, all this sort of stuff, right? But at some point, you have to just acknowledge that there is tens of millions of people in your country and around the world, by the way. It's pretty much the same sort of division around the world, people that love him and people that hate him. There's a lot of people that say, you know what, this guy actually represents a future that I want, who don't want to see the kinds of policies the Democrats are trying to put out there, such as spending more money, increasing taxes and all that sort of stuff. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like the added level of bureaucracy that has been occurring since the Reagan years.
Okay, but I mean, Reagan, let's let...
Just a quick couple of things, because we keep doing
let's jump in for about 30 minutes.
We keep doing this fallacy that, okay, well, we have to recognize, we do, that is already there. Just because we're talking about one position doesn't mean that we don't recognize what else is there. So the idea that, oh, well, only these 50 some odd million people count. Why are you only talking about those? Because that's a fallacy. That's really a poor argument to even start with. Then if we talk about the economy, the first thing that was pointed out in terms of the economy was doing well is, oh, the stock market is high. Well, the stock market is higher and reached higher heights now. Oh, well, unemployment. Well, unemployment reached lower and is lower now. So all these economic measures are all better under Biden. We have to play, if we're going to be honest, we have to be honest about that. Every economist has pointed that out. Also, inflation is high. Yes, inflation spiked under Biden. You know why? You're giving the 2020 was COVID. We can't really base everything on COVID. And well, you're giving a pass on the fact that Donald Trump lost jobs. He was the only president to lose jobs. And that happened tremendously when COVID hit. And therefore, he did lose a ton of jobs. But again, we're giving him a pass on that, but not giving a pass on the fact that inflation spiked due to COVID and the recovery crisis under COVID. So we can't play these ridiculous games. We have to point to the actual facts. And if you look at in 2020, even pre-COVID, yes, the economy was doing okay, but it wasn't doing great because we still had problems. We had a spike in immigration. Immigration was spiking under Trump. Hence the reason why he went on TV and in even rallies while he was president, talking about, oh, caravans of migrants were coming. We have to do this. Why? Because he was in the background trying to fight and put up law run by executive order, which got challenged in the courts and got struck down. Hence the reason why Biden took away some of those executive orders, because they were getting challenged. The only executive order that actually affected the immigration was the actual the stay in Mexico that dealt with COVID, which when we recall the pandemic, that executive order goes away due to the court systems. So therefore, you're asking him to do something that's impossible, because again, immigration stopped because of COVID. But we forget these things because right before COVID happened, at the bottom of 2019, it was actually spiking. So all these things were happening under Trump. We got bombed. Bases were bombed while Trump was there. Trump did absolutely nothing. All he did was go ahead and disparage the individuals that were injured at those bases. There was one that happened in Iraq where Trump turned around and said, well, these individuals, there were no real injuries. They just had headaches. They were having trauma. There was a problem, but he disparaged the actual men and women in service that were in that base, saying that, hey, all they had was headaches. And he never responded, never, ever responded. We had protests in the streets every year of Trump, not just once, not just twice, every year. People remember in 2019 and in 2020, there were multiple protests going up and down. Trump even used the military to clear a pathway because he wanted to walk from the White House to a church and take a picture of a Bible being held upside down, which he didn't realize. He thought he was doing something cool. So there was chaos under Trump. There was legit chaos under Trump. But we forget that because we do the same nostalgic thing that we're not honest about when we talk about, well, 4 years ago, we were putting people in ice trucks. Oh, that's COVID. Well, even before that, Trump was the one that actually removed a lot of the pre-pandemic people who were supposed to help with that. Do you realize under Obama, we did have an issue with SARS? We also had Ebola that was breaking out. We didn't have a pandemic, or we didn't even have to do all this craziness. Under Biden right now, we're having Ebola not Ebola, the mosquitoes that are affecting people up north right now. That's breaking out. These things happen. When you're president, you have to deal with these things. So saying, well, hey, we're going to give them a pass because it was COVID means that you're not really looking at it legitimately, what's best for the country and what's best for the people and what's best for the globe. So truthfully, Trump is chaos. And his Project 2025 plan, as much as he tries to run away from it, you can't run away from the fact that the Heritage Foundation sponsored the RNC. The Heritage Foundation passed out pamphlets at the RNC. Trump gave a speech at the Heritage Foundation conference right before the RNC. Trump has more than 100 plus of his former staffers in the Heritage Foundation who wrote Project 2025. And then on top of that, the amount of money that comes from the Heritage Foundation directly into these super PACs that Trump has. So we cannot ignore these facts that are there and just go on some tirade that, we got to give him a pass.
Hold on a second. I did see your hand. I saw both of your hands, but Steve just joined us. So, Steve, let's see what Steve's got to say, because Steve's one of the anchors.
I'm only here for a few minutes, guys. Just top stories today. Russia launched, probably already talked about it, but major missile attacks on Ukraine. Zelensky is saying it's one of the biggest combined strikes of the war. Not good. More than half of Ukraine's regions were attacked. And the presidential politics still continues. Vice President candidate Holtz Walz is supposed to come to Raleigh this Thursday for an event, and the UN has been that's a fundraiser. $3,300 a head to get in, $10,000 to get a picture. So it's steep. And the UN said it had been forced to pause humanitarian aid in Gaza because of Israeli evacuation orders. So lots going on in the world. Pretty steep for a fundraiser, $3,300 a head.
Yeah, that's a lot for a fundraiser. Don't know I'd be spending that kind of money and everything along those lines. Rick, I think he had a point, and Sasha had a point as well. I did look.
No, I was pointing at Steve, saying Steve should go.
Okay, and I also.
That's okay. I'm only here for a few minutes. I've got to run, but I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Before you leave, one of the things that was part of the debate that was going on, you were in city council there in Morrisville. What is your take on the economy? Because part of the debate was the economy both under Trump and under Biden and all along those lines. I did see where I looked up under factcheck.org that Trump apparently lost like some 2,720,000 jobs, and the unemployment rate was at 6.4%, but the job openings were at plus 27.9%, and they said real weekly earnings were up at 8.4%. And something that I know Sasha's friend Milan talks about, S&P 500 was at plus 67.8%. Poverty rate was at minus 1.3%. So it sounds like it might have been a mixed bag of reports for the Trump numbers, if I'm going by some of these numbers, including the murder rate being at plus 1.1%. But you are in the politics, and I just wanted your take, because they even say corporate profits were up plus 17.4%. But what is your take on the economy?
I think that's a hard question because if you look at just under the Biden administration, there was more jobs created than Trump. I think 15 million. Unemployment had hovered down around 3.5%, although it's just hopped up to about 4%. And so now some economists are saying that we could be headed to a recession. We don't know what the Fed, they said they may tinker interest rates down 1 or 2 points, which could lead to lower prices in those stores. Inflation is still there, I think 5.2%. So some economists have said because so much money was pumped in the economy, it actually created a lot of these jobs. The ARP, Inflation Reduction Act, North Carolina is an example of $230 billion of clean energy projects in all 50 states, and 50 billion of those are in North Carolina. So, VinFast, a lot of the electric battery manufacturers, the CHIPS Act brought a lot of jobs back. So it's hard to say. I mean, I think the economy is better, but it could formally hit a recession before the election. And if it does, then I think the Democrats are in trouble. I think inflation created supply chain disruption. I mean, COVID created supply chain disruptions. And so that's why you had a lot of these price increases. So I don't know, Mark. It's like any economist, don't answer the question, just answer out, right?
All right, I got two quick points. One is a certain segment of Wall Street loves government chaos because a confused, ineffective government can't regulate, is less effective at regulating business. Like at the end of the second term of Clinton, of Reagan, where they're kind of embroiled in messes, Iran-Contra and stuff, and lame ducks and paralyzed. The stock market loves that. So yeah, there was a certain love for the stock market under Trump because he deregulated, but also because he was crappy at governing, and the stock market doesn't like to be governed.
But Rick, along those same lines,
One more thing is a measure of how bad a president is how many years it takes to undo the damage they did. And the first couple of years of Biden was just undoing the mess of Trump.
But
My question real quick, Mark, for everybody, does character matter anymore?
No.
Before, it used to be a big thing that the president was supposed to represent the best of us. The president was supposed to set the tone for everybody. The president was supposed to be this we're the shining beacon, and this was supposed to be the head of that shining beacon. Does character matter?
No. Character is very subjective. Results matter.
Was a chaotic and a terrible leader of the government. Exclude 2020. Again, the question I ask is on what metric? Because if you look at Biden,
Shaquille, I just gave you some of the metrics earlier, and I can give you some more. And some of them I said,
hang on. He's a very intelligent guy. I'm sure that he can answer without your assistance or Jacoby's. But what metric? Now, if you have a look at Biden, Biden gets criticized on a few different things. He gets criticized for inflation. Now, some of that inflation, as is rightfully pointed out, is caused because of COVID and the supply chain disruption. But some of that inflation is also caused by the amount of money that was pumped into the market and where it was pumped in. At some point, the Fed has to take that off their balance sheet. That's going to be a problem. There are other issues that we have right now, such as the major banks, the commercial banks, being forced to buy government bonds at face value. Interest rates have gone up, which means that the face value of those bonds has decreased, and yet the market value of those bonds have decreased, and yet the US Treasury has decided to allow them to use it as collateral at 100% of its full face. Now, from what I understand, is at least $800 billion sitting there on the balance sheet. That's getting into 2007-8 numbers. It's a problem. So again, I don't come back too hard against Biden because he was in a difficult position. But to just keep blaming Trump for everything and saying that Trump did nothing positive during the time that he was the president, again, tens of millions of Americans don't agree with you. And if you keep that sort of attitude and you don't hear other people who tell you in America, hey, actually our lives got a lot better, I think you insulate yourself against the feedback that would help to actually, which would help to shape policy and help parties to navigate into the future. That this is a comment straight to you, Rick. So straight to you.
So there's another side to this, which is what led people to vote for Trump. And some of the voters are voting for there are legitimate economic issues that pushed people towards Trump, and neither party addresses these issues. Really, Nick likes to say neither party addresses the deficit or the debt, but I'd say neither party addresses really tech disruption and the enshittification of jobs. Technology replaces decent jobs with shitty half jobs like Uber driver and OnlyFans nude model. And that, people feel the economic disruption, and tens of millions of people were driven to vote for Trump because of that. even though neither.
Well, hang on. A couple of things on that. One, Hillary Clinton decided to go down a very partisan line with her, the deplorables comments by saying that half of them are sexist and homophobic and this and that. I mean, that doesn't endear people to you. It never does. So she should have done that. Secondly, during all of that election cycle, you had Democrats that were telling everybody how bad Hillary Clinton was and not to vote for her. And then she won the primaries anyway. Bernie Sanders supporters were horrified because, look, Bernie Sanders is the populist on the left, like Trump is a populist on the right. And people were really unhappy. So that lowered the turnout, I would argue, for Hillary Clinton voters and for Democrat voters. And then as soon as Donald Trump won, there was no sort of, okay, well, look, that's the political process. He won. Let's wish him the best and support him. It was a protest immediately. There was protests on his inauguration, and it just never stopped. And the media turned on him and was really nasty to him the entire time. And a lot of people looked at that who didn't previously support Trump, and polls have shown this. A lot of people said because of how harshly he was treated right from the beginning, they ended up supporting him. Now, in 2020, the campaign run by Biden, I don't think was a very good one. In fact, Steve Brown made the comment when we were doing an election night coverage, and it looked like he had lost, that maybe sitting in the basement and maybe not coming out and speaking more was a bad idea. Now, in the end, Biden won, but it was razor thin. It came down to a few states, and it came down to tens of thousands of votes, but to determine the election for the whole country. What are we seeing this time round? We just had a report come out from American media today that said that the Democrats have said that there may not be enough time for Harris Waltz to actually release all of their policy positions. I mean, again, if you support her, fine. Or if you dislike Donald Trump, that's fine. You can do that. But I think that it's incredulous to say that you can't understand why tens of millions of people are going to go, no, I'm not voting for it, especially with the amount of turmoil and the political games that have been played in the White House in the last handful of months.
But Shaquille, hold on a second. Shaquille, along those same lines, it's been a lot of folks that have come out, including fast Republican administrators and everything, that talk about the polarization of a Trump personality, of Trump campaign, and even the Trump presidency of the past and everything. So you're saying that is not a problem as well, because that's why a number of these folks that used to work for.
But the polarization comes about, Mark, because he tries to constrain special interests, and he knows that many politicians are able to earn substantial amounts of money because they're in politics, whether it be by direct lobbying or whether it be because people say to them, hey, you need to go and buy, XYZ shares and then pass laws that are going to help XYZ company to get ahead. This is why you see some of these politicians that are walking around with $50 million and $100 million net worths when they've been lifelong politicians. So the fact that Trump's gone in there and is trying to disrupt that system is obviously going to make him not a popular person. Obviously, that's going to be the case. But again, it doesn't take away from the fact of what I'm saying. You may not like him. It's very, very clear that the majority of people on this panel do not like Donald Trump. That's fine. But there are tens of millions of people that do. There are also tens of millions of people that are talking about, not tens of millions, but there's a large number of people that are talking about why they're leaving the Democrats Party. Now, I would argue the Republicans have moved to a more moderate position, and they're encompassing a much wider tent. Democrats are saying, no, that's us, but you're losing numbers. You're losing numbers. So if you're not prepared to listen to people who say, look, I can't take it anymore, I'm leaving, and when people do leave, you just go out and attack them, well, at what point is there any self-reflection and going, okay, maybe...
Just quick points. Two quick points. All right, so hold on.
Hold on a second.
Hold on, Mark.
The DNC that had the RNC, it was a much wider tent.
According to a Pew Research study, 2022, Republicans in Congress have moved 4 times as much to the right as Democrats moved to the left. Second thing, go back to 2017. Trump could have governed from the middle. He doesn't have strong positions. He could have embraced the whole country. Instead, he was antagonistic. He started his presidency with a fight over the size of the crowd at his inauguration, insisting ridiculously that he had more people than Obama did. Who cares? And obviously not true. You said that the press was mean to Trump, but Trump was also a dick from word go as president.
Just to point out a couple of things, starting in 2016, because this is where I'm talking about where, oh, well, there are millions of people who believe in Trump. We get that. We get that. Saying that doesn't mean that we don't. We get that. We've reiterated. We get that and understand that. The sad part, the tough part is being balanced and understanding that there are people also against Trump, pointing out the fact that, oh, well, people are leaving the Democrat Party. Do you realize more people have left the Republican Party? So both parties are actually losing people, and more people are going as independents than actually being considered a Republican, being considered a libertarian, or being considered a Democrat or a liberal. So when we're talking about people leaving parties, that's both parties are losing people. On top of that, when we leave out context, you left out context on the fact that, oh, well, Hillary Clinton was saying the deplorable thing. Well, do you realize that during all that time, Trump had talked about grabbing women by the blank and also all these other despicable.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
No,
yes,
he didn't.
Stop,
no, he
stop,
didn't.
Stop.
No,
I will bring up the facts and everything. Please stop. You know nothing on this because you've already said that. So let me finish.
I know nothing. Hang on. I tell you I disagree. Your response is that I don't.
Sit here the whole time.
I know nothing.
So please sit in the background. Please be muted. So let me finish my point. In 2016, yes, there were actual protests. You know why there were protests? Because of what I just stated. He talked about grabbing women by the blank. He also talked about other things around women, and that was upsetting. That's why they had the Pussy Hat March. That was actually in the middle of Washington. That happened in 2016. But you're forgetting these things because you're saying that all these things were all liberal this. It's not. Yes, there were problems that happened up under Biden. There are tons of the Afghan pullout was horrible. But then we got to remember the context of that is it was put in place because Trump had a meeting with the Taliban at Camp David, or wanted to bring them to Camp David. That's all been well documented. But again, these things happened and that was put in place. It could have been handled better. Yes, the way he pulled out could have been handled better. But he had a date that he had to get out, or the Taliban were going to start shooting at American soldiers. That was the deal that was put in place by Trump. Also, Trump had already pulled out tons of soldiers before that actual deal was supposed to come to a close. So Biden was stuck with a poor hand. And again, we grade presidents on how they play their hand. Biden did a poor job of playing that hand with Afghanistan. That's called being balanced in terms of your approach. It's not ignoring the facts. It's talking about the facts that happened. And again, in 2016, you're forgetting that what really depressed the vote was the fact that what was it? The investigation announcement on Hillary Clinton about the emails, and then that became the thing that started depressing the vote. Clinton had years of baggage against her, and the Bernie Bros were there, but the Bernie Bros weren't huge. Also, Trump didn't win by a landslide. Trump won by roughly about 90,000 votes across 3 states. So he didn't win by a landslide. And yes, Hillary Clinton won by the popular vote by a ton of people. Biden won by the popular vote and also the electoral count that Trump won by. So Trump is a populist. When he came in and started running, yes, it pulled people that way. However, Trump had a lot of very deplorable sayings, and he continues on the deplorable sayings. And to clutch your pearls and say it was such a bad thing, you said nothing against Trump, saying that the Democrats are pedophiles, or the Democrats are communists, the Democrats are social. You say nothing against those things. You only go after people who say anything and then talk about this 11 million or 50. It's not that. That's the disingenuous argument that people get frustrated about. When you want to have a conversation about what's going on in the country, yes, inflation is high, and there are ways that are pulling it down. We had the spike, yes, COVID. When that spike happened, yeah, it caused problems in the market. It caused problems across supply chains. It was a horrible spike to deal with. but it's been brought down. What was Trump going to do in that time? Trump's whole energy policy, because he keeps talking about we're going to release energy. What does that mean? Oh, well, we're going to drill. We're drilling the most oil that we've ever had in the history of the world, not just this country. So what's he going to do? Drill more? That's not going to help out on the economy. So again, being balanced about these things and having a discussion about these things, let's have a legitimate discusussion. There are problems in Kamala Harris's plan. What is she going to truly do about price gouging? Because that is her key thing. The Republican Party is taking it and saying that she's going to do this communist price caps. That's not what she's talking about. She's talking about price gouging. So if she details that, then that kills their whole argument there. The Republican Party is great at messaging, but right now they're struggling to message around what Kamala Harris is doing. Kamala Harris is running a campaign
because she's not releasing any policy positions.
She's released more policies than actual Donald Trump.
Where are they then? Where are they then? What are you talking about?
Shaq, answer me.
Have on her own website.
What is Trump's policy to bring down inflation?
No, don't change the goalposts. You said Kamala Harris is released on her policies. Show me. Show me where they are. No, hang on. If you know where her policies are, tell the rest of it. Because the Democrats don't seem to know.
Either you know what you're talking about or you don't. We're going to figure that out right now. What is Trump's economic policy to deal with inflation?
Don't change the goalpost.
There we go. We have it. You know nothing.
Don't change the goalpost. You made the statement that Kamala Harris has released all these policies.
I can help you out, Shaq.
I can answer his question, but he's deflecting. Nick, I can actually answer his question. I can answer his question about what Trump's plan is for inflation, but he's changing the goalpost. Just like the comment that
not at all.
Like his comment that when he started off like 5 minutes ago by making the statement that
10 minutes, so he just stop.
Government spending creates inflation. Jacoby, government spending creates inflation. Reduce government spending. Get rid of the bureaucrats that you're supporting. Now, Harris, this shows you how incompetent Harris is. She's going after companies.
What is the detailed policy just to get rid of
this
government?
Is how incompetent Harris is. She's going after companies.
Nick, wait.
Yet she has no problem with
the detailed policy is to get rid of government,
which is creating the inflation. So she has an opportunity to be a great president, and she's
this is how dishonest.
She's going to fail because she refuses to look at the problem. If she wants to look at the problem, she needs to get up in the morning, look in the mirror.
That's detailed policy that you stated was to get rid of government.
Nick, this is how dishonest they are. This is how dishonest they are over on that side. So firstly, Toby started off by making some comment that in 2016, Donald Trump said that he was going to grab it by the blank. No, that's not what he was saying in 2016. A recording of him having said that previously to some guys on a bus. Right? So he didn't say it in 2016. He didn't say it during the election campaign. Okay, so that's first. Secondly,
that was what I played.
Harris has talked about putting in price controls. Price controls.
Or 2017 when he got the election.
Surely you've had a fair chance to express your viewpoints on this show.
Yeah, he had 30 minutes.
Yeah, like surely you feel like you've had enough time. Right, so you don't need to put me by myself. I can be interrupted. I'm just pointing out to Jacoby that he's had his time. So Kamala Harris is talking about price controls. It doesn't work. Richard Nixon tried price controls. It doesn't work. We know it doesn't. It's failed every time it's been attempted. That's what she's talked about. She's talked about a 25% unrealized capital gains tax. That's absurd. That is one of the worst ideas I've ever heard of. In fact, I would go so far as to say, as far as economics is concerned, a 25% unrealized capital gains tax is probably the worst idea that I've come across, with the exception of socialism and communism. Okay, it is a terrible idea. And third, she talks about wanting to snatch the patents of pharmaceutical companies. Are you kidding me? You can't do that. I'd expect to live in a free society. All those pharmaceutical companies will do is they'll either stop developing the drugs in the first place, or the government won't be able to manufacture them. They'll just jack up the cost of supply. These are terrible ideas, and she still hasn't, as much as Jacoby wants to try and claim otherwise, she still hasn't released her policies on her website. So to sit there and decry Donald Trump, she hasn't released her policies, and you know she hasn't. Why you can't just sit there and go, yeah, okay, she hasn't. It's a weak spot for the Democrat. You also said that I never criticized Trump. I've spent years criticizing Donald Trump. Okay, I criticize him all the time. But you want to try and sit there. You want to try and sit there, and any criticism of Democrats, any criticism of Harris, and it's totally unacceptable. And just for the viewers, you were the same person. You were the same person who just 6 weeks ago, you're the same person that had a crack at everybody else when they said, look, Biden's not doing very well. Maybe he should drop out of the race. He's too old. He can't do anything. Then he had that terrible debate performance. He had that terrible debate performance where you couldn't say it was cheap fakes, and you still sat there and went to bat for him, and you still sat there and said that it was a conspiracy theory that we were all talking about and him dropping out. Then when he drops out, and doesn't go to a convention, you just jumped in line, right? So what you are, Jacoby, you are just an obedient little boy that just does whatever the Democrats tell you what to do. Have some self-respect, man. Have some self-respect.
Arguments. Hold on, both of you. Both of you. Only got about 3 minutes. So hold on a second. Both of you, just really quickly and everything.
Well, let Rick have a go.
Hold on, both of you, because I'm going to make a quick point and everything. One is that I'm not going to speak for you, Toby, but I know that some people have criticized, including myself, on this network, the fact that there is no plan. There are some people that say that she's trying to run out the clock and everything, if you want to use the sports analogy and all along those lines. And there have been people that have acknowledged that. And so some people have said it's a good plan, some people have not. And I've also said some good things about the Trump administration. Matter of fact, I just pointed out some things that were up and down. I was getting ready to mention, but didn't get to it. And maybe we can talk about it tomorrow.
Is that a good thing for America?
We're actually up.
Just answer one question. Just a yes or no. Is that a good thing for America?
As well, but we're talking about
it's playing a political game.
As well, and that's an issue with the housing. And
it's playing a political game.
Positive under Trump.
It's playing a political game where you do a calculation that says, look, we might be better off politically not releasing our policies. Is that a good thing for America and Americans? Because I tell you what, if it happened in Australia, we'd be absolutely livid. Even if it was my side of politics, I would vote for the Labor Party. If my side of politics did that, I'd vote for the Labor Party for the first time in my life. Okay? Is that good? I think that's terrible. Rick, over to you.
All right, so it's been strategically effective. And that's, if you're running for president, if it's not going bad for you, then you do that. And yeah, it's going to piss people off, but she's under pressure, going to have a press conference by the end of this month, and then she'll have to answer questions at the debate on September 10th.
And think about this, which is actually
she has been. It's like, I don't know. It reminds me of swimming, where you freaking throw your Olympic swimming. You throw yourself in the pool, and you don't even start swimming till you're halfway, because you just use your initial momentum. You don't take a stroke till you're 1/3 of the way down the pool.
This has never happened. This has never happened before in American history. It's political gamemanship. And here's the question for you. This is either going to have two results: either Trump wins or she wins. Now, if Trump wins, then you're going to say, okay, that was a really bad idea, or are you going to say, oh, well, it's because Trump this and that, and half the country's mad? If it does work, if Harris wins, is this now the new playbook? Is this what Democrats are going to do for future elections? And say, look, it worked really well last time, so let's do that from now on.
It was what Trump used in 2016. You guys are missing that.
Unprecedented in political history, where when LBJ dropped out, he did it in March, I believe, and there was a huge amount. This happening so late in the election cycle is a crazy thing. But
Just
also,
to point out,
don't disagree that if the media was more honest, if the media was more honest about Biden's position, that he would have dropped out earlier.
Hold on,
you guys are missing the way politics is going now.
Trump never released. When you talk about a lack of
in 08,
Trump has never released a health plan after 8 years.
In
He's
2000,
got this beautiful health, like
yeah, but Rick, he worked with pharmaceutical companies. He made hospitals reveal the lowest prices they would accept. He did all sorts of things in the health space.
Donald Trump.
He passed the right to try act. He did all sorts of things.
Donald Trump never released any tax releases, never released any plans.
We're not talking about his tax release. We're talking about policy, Jacoby.
In 2016. In
We're talking about policy, dude.
President Obama ruled the way that he had because he never released any
we're
plans.
We're talking about running the country,
right
dude.
Now,
and
what's going on.
There's nothing that Republicans can do that you'll think is a good idea. There's nothing that Democrats can do that you think is a bad idea. You've made that perfectly clear. Just beat it to the ball. Why do you even bother? You should just go, look, whatever they say, I believe. Whatever they say, I agree with, because I have no brain of my own, and I have no intellectual courage of my own. That's
and we have to go.